Here we go. All right. 3, 2. Welcome, my friends, to this latest episode of the Contractor Sales Academy podcast. I'm Tom. I got Steve and Derek here. We're hanging out. We're ready to bring you something today. We're going to dig right in because I know we're going to get meaty on this here for a bit. We're going to dig into something that the three of us were talking just before we hit record here earlier today, that if you understand and implement what we're about to talk about today, it is absolutely going to change your business in huge ways. It's going to change your life, change your business. In fact, I want you guys to think about the problems that you have on a typical basis in your business, like customer didn't understand what was included and what was not included, or there's a miscommunication about the schedule, or you get to the end of the job and then they don't want to pay you, or whatever the problem might be. So I guess, Steve, I'll volley this over to you to kick this topic off here today, because I know what we're going to talk about today will fix all these problems because I've seen it for all of us.
So business is really all about dealing with people. And you got to learn who to go over, who to go under, who to go right through, who to go around. You got to smell these situations and know how to deal with people. So the topic for today, we call it vanguarding. Now, let me tell you where the word vanguarding, and basically what vanguarding is understanding the situation in front of you and addressing potential problems that may happen down the road before they actually happen. So they either won't happen, or when they crop up, you can deal with it. And the way this word vanguard used to come down is, in the good old days, 300-400 years ago, people like Old England would have 3 separate armies. They would have the army that would go in first, the vanguard, the army that would go in second, the main guard, and the army that would clean everything up called the rear guard. And the purpose of the vanguard was to run out in front of the situation, get a lay of the land, a lay of the situation, and relay information back to the main guard so they weren't surprised by things blowing up in their face. And it's exactly the same way in our business. I have a great story that just happened to us last week that I'll share with you in a second, but before I turn it over to Derek. But the bottom line is, there's certain bombs that open in your face, and you might as well diffuse them before that happens so it doesn't happen. Derek?
So I just want to set the stage for what you're going to go over is, about 5 years ago, I guarantee you, I was right where whoever's listening to us right now as a contractor, I was right there. I set horrible expectations. I didn't vanguard because I didn't know what it was. So what would I do? Basically, I would cower through the whole job and then maybe not even collect money at the end. I would piss off customers. I would just make a mess of everything. So once you learn how to vanguard, because that doesn't happen for me anymore, that doesn't mean that we don't have to have tough conversations, but that's what Steve's going to break down, and I'm sure in the story, and Tom, I'm sure you got something as well. Yeah. It's just, but here's the difference. You don't know what you don't know. So as you learn more about this and how to do it, and I'm sure through the next 15, 20 minutes, the light bulb is going to go off so many times, it's probably going to burst, because you're going to hear shit that you should have done, and now you're in the throes of it. Well, now you just got to deal with it. So we're trying to get you on the other side on your next job, or maybe the current job that you're on, to fix that shit. Tom?
Yeah. I want to give an example here, a real life example of what it might sound like. And this is basically saying, what are those typical problems that you usually have? And so in my training and coaching and speaking that I do with people, I often talk about how important day one of a project is. Okay, so let's just take day one of a project. So imagine we're on day one, we're starting on a Monday, and you're going to finish the job on Thursday. So Derek and Steve, what are some things that might be a problem on Thursday?
Well, they're not happy.
Not happy. Why?
Because their expectations and your expectations were different, because you didn't set proper, clear expectations for all to follow.
Bingo. And so this is kind of, we'll use that one example. So this is one of the things that's kind of already included in the Shin Fu, right? If you go to the motive step, step one is the motive. and what's important to them and all those things that, we train on and teach people to do. It might sound like this, and this can happen. This should be happening in your sales process on the pre-qualification call when you go out and meet with the client in your transfer the trust meeting that you do, Steve. Okay. This conversation should be happening and communicated to your team. And it might be like, hey, Steve, we're going to finish this job at around 4:00 on Thursday. You're going to hand us a check. Or maybe you were in the process, you're on the phone, right? Let's just back up there. I'll give 2 examples. We're on the phone, pre-qualify. Steve, you're going to write a check to somebody, whether it's me or some other company. And, on the last day of the job, they're going to be pulling away. You're going to have handed them a check. How are you going to know that you hired the right guy?
Well, if you don't make a damn mess like the last contractor made, I think I'll be pretty damn happy.
Well, we never make a mess, and we always clean up, and we always cover and protect things, and we're really neat and we're really clean. Time out. That's not what we do. That was a joke. Okay. That's called.
I'm not going, Tom, I can tell when I run.
See, but that's what most of us do. Most of us pounce, run our mouths, and what it needs to sound like is, hey, Steve, it's not surprising. I hear that a lot. Tell me more about that. What kind of experiences have you had with other contractors?
Well, when they came in to paint the house, first off, they dumped a can of paint and didn't clean it up. They didn't put the little things on their feet. They tracked mud everywhere. And when they did a bunch of sanding and stuff, and there was dust everywhere. But basically, by the time they left, except for the newly painted walls, the rest of my house was dirtier than when they showed up.
So tell me about this can of paint. What happened there?
Well, I don't know. Somebody just kicked one over, and they kicked it over on a hardwood floor, so they did the best wiping it up, but it's still in the grain. You could tell it's there. They didn't quite clean it up all the way, but they did apologize for it, but that's where it stopped.
Yeah. So other than that, what would have made you feel great about the experience that you had with them?
Well, if they'd have used drop claws, there's certain standard things that I think a painter would use, like drop claws for one. I would think that would have been good, or booties for their shoes, number 2. Basic overall respect for my home, number 3. How about that?
Yeah. So that's the things you're sharing are pretty common and stuff. Would it be helpful at some time, if it makes sense for us to get together and come out there and move forward on this, before we took the next step, would it be helpful if I went over with you the process that we used to prepare to paint a house?
Well, I don't need all that detail. I think what I want is a guarantee at the end that you're going to leave my house better than you found it.
Sounds fair. This is funny because I'm spacing out right now. So I'm in real time here. So
I thought he was giving the pause, allowing some room.
So here's what I've learned from Tom, and it's funny you spaced out, Tom, because I use this because you taught this to me 3 years ago. When they have problems like that, you got to say something. You will say, hey, what if I put in writing? And at the very end, if we didn't do the great job according to your specs, like clean up, no spilling paint, drop cloth, the little hoodies on our shoes and all that stuff, I'll put all that in writing. And if you're not happy at the end, then you don't have to give me the last check.
Yep.
Would that be okay with you?
Yep. It's funny because I thought about going there and I felt it was too soon. I was like, I got to get some more paint. I got to dig a little more. And that's what made me space out. But I sold a lot of jobs with that. And so that was the phone call. So now let's say it makes sense to come out there. All right. And so Derek, I'll tap you in. You go out to Steve's house now. You're doing your transfer the trust meeting, pre-job visit. You're going to revisit this issue that could blow up on the last day of the job. What's that sound like from you?
So for me, if it's in the transfer and the trust, I'm just letting them know, hey, if it's not in the scope, it doesn't happen. So I'm going to make sure everything's in here, all the details. If you're good with it, we're going to use it as a checklist when we're completely done. So we're going to bring this back out. You go down through, if it's 25 items we're going to do, you check off every bit of it. We're all good. Sign me another check. If not, now we got a punch list. So we make sure that happens. But here's the thing. Sometimes we do miss stuff. Sometimes we do run into problems. I like to think that I have the best team ever. But you know what? Sometimes we just fall short. And I just want to let you know, if we do, we're going to fix it. And I want you to be okay with that. So if anytime anything's going wrong, let's just communicate. Let's just talk, because I'm going to call you and communicate with you. Maybe I had to delay on an order. The last thing, actually probably what I would want to do is smooth it over somehow so that you actually didn't think it was going to happen. And then miraculously it was going to pull it off and I look like, you know, the golden child. But I don't want to do that. If for some reason I can't get a shower door because a supplier messed up or I messed up, I want to be able to know that I can feel safe and contact you and go, this sucks, but this job's going to be 2 weeks out because, you know what, I couldn't get that shower door. And I just want you to be okay with all of this stuff, because I hope and I think after all these years and all the badass people I'm around that this job's going to go perfect, but there's a real good chance that it's not. I just want you to be okay with it. So that's how my stuff sounds now. I just want to, and I spoke with a contractor this morning. He reached out to me with a problem. And basically, as we were talking about vanguarding, he said that, well, I don't want my team to sound like they suck. I was like, you know what? But if you tell the customer your team sucks and they didn't, he's preparing for them to suck, and he's stoked that they didn't. So if you just shoot people straight, well, first of all, if you have a sucky team, just get rid of them. But if you just get out in front of that shit, the vanguarding, like Steve said, the people that go in the first, you don't have to worry about those rear guard that has to come in and clean it up, because I have a feeling that's pretty much how most contractors operate. You have a strong rear guard, that was weird, and not a very strong vanguard. Is that fair?
Yeah, it's funny, Derek, you bring that up. The stronger your vanguard is, the easier your middle guard and your rear guard even have to be. And the rear guard, you may not even need a rear guard if your vanguard is proper. And back to that situation with the painting, if I'm doing a transfer of trust, just to give you my style, I'm going to walk in there with my team of painters and with the homeowner, and I'm say, look, before I go over the job scope, I want to talk about something. The last guy in here made a holy mess, and these people were mad. And I promised them we wouldn't make a mess, okay? In fact, we would use drop claws, et cetera, et cetera. So I would relieve them that this elephant in the room is now.
Lost your audio.
So everybody knows that this is the main issue. Don't make a goddamn mess. Then we can go into the scope of the job and all the colors of the room and all that other kind of stuff. So all that's doing is diffusing that bomb before that thing blows up in your face.
So this is why it's so important to have a process, guys, in your business. So if this is how we're talking about painting. This is how we paint a room. And guys, when you have checklist, this is the first thing you do. This is the second thing you do. You check that thing, and at the end of the job, we used to have a final closeout checklist that we would go over to make sure a job was finished to the standards that it needed to be. And we would show the customer. So earlier I talked about day one of the job. So now we show up on day one. I'm the foreman. I go to Steve and I go, hey, I understand you had a couple conversations with Tom or Derek about not leaving a mess. That was super important to you, and some of these other things, and blah, blah, blah. Is that right? And guys, this is why you have to have a weekly meeting. This is why you have to role play with your people and train them how to do this shit so they get used to talking to people. This is why being a foreman is not just somebody who's got his head in the bucket or his head in the hole and he's not paying attention to anything. And when you do this, their trust level goes up, their comfort level goes up. All right, their defenses go down because they've seen consistency of communication within your company about the things that are important to them. And we had a checklist, and we would go, hey, Steve, here's the checklist that on Thursday I'm going to follow to detail your job. See, check this out. Each room, it's got this. Did we pull tape and clean up the lines? Did we Swiffer the floor? Did we, pull the plastic down? Did we wipe off the countertops? We would literally do all these things because I understand that you said it was important that we leave the house nicer than we found it. This is how we're going to get there. So I'm going to go through and do this. And then I'm going to do the final walkthrough with you, because on rare occasion, maybe I miss something or whatever it is. And I would just want to make sure I take care of it right there. And then at that time, when you're happy, I'll have you initial here. You'll give me the final check for the balance owed on the project. See, I'm vanguarding the problem of collecting money on the last day. Okay. I'm also, you guys ever have that situation where, yeah, I'll pay you on the last day and then they don't come home from work until late and all that other shit? This is on the first day of the job. You vanguard that by saying, hey, at 4 o'clock on Thursday, I'm going to need to have you or your wife here to go over this. blah, 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 get the final check, and all that other stuff. So guys, just think about every issue that you have on your job sites, in your business, all this other crap. If you just take the time to work these simple processes, these simple checklists, you're going to save yourself a lot of hassles.